It's time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Village Council regular session. Today is June 26, 2023. I'll call this meeting to order. If you'd all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a quick moment of silence and pray that we can make it through the evening. And Christian, would you please do roll call?
Trustee Olson.
Here.
Trustee Wagner.
Here.
Trustee Reister. Here. Trustee Fields. Trustee Holmes. Here. President Pro Tem Keller.
Here.
President Frisbee.
Here. So we have an agenda in front of us. I want to make an addition on 10G under council action items, municipal building authority appointments. Jim, do you, as a staff, any changes?
Yes, sir. We can incorporate 10A into 10F. That is a part of the adoption of the 23-24 fiscal year budget and does not need to be a standalone. I'll also be adding an item 11C under the manager's report.
Does council have any changes or additions they'd like to address tonight? Hearing none, we have a schedule, an agenda in front of us, so what is this council's desire?
Move as amended.
Second.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Fields. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have an agenda in front of us. We have no scheduled appearances tonight. We have no public officials. We're going to make a deviation tonight from, we'll allow a citizen that's here to like to speak to a non-agenda item. So this would be the time to do it, sir. If you would please introduce yourself and your address.
Hi, my name is Dirk Van Krimpen. I live at 315 North Main Street, Vicksburg. I'm here tonight due to the fact that our lake, which is part of the park, which I thought it was Park and Rec meeting, but this is good. It's turning to crap. The algae is growing rampant. The weeds are uncontrollable. We need assistance. And the beach looks like crap. You're supposed to have 100 feet of lake excess on the beach. What you have is about 30 feet. The rest is all overgrown. That beach needs major attention. So what I did, last year at this time, I brought some pictures that I took of the lake and how this lake looks when the temperature gets to be about 90 degrees. So I'll pass them over here, and then you can look at it, and you can decide. And then at the last, it's not a very good picture. I have a picture of the beachfront, which is from my house when I look at it. By the way, I'm vice president of the Lake Association, so we need to generate some revenue, and we need help desperately. Desperately. I mean, I wish I still had my pontoon. I'd take you all out there and show you. It's, you know, we get a lot of fishermen and kayakers, canoers. They're not going to come when the lake looks like that. I'll tell you that. So we need to do something. And I'm asking for help. Desperate. Desperate. I want you to look. The next time, I got your phone numbers, I can get them. I'll call you and ask you to drive by and take a look at this lake, because you're not going to believe it. It is algae bloom after algae bloom after algae bloom. And you know, that's dangerous to swim in. You know, you can get real bad infections from that stuff. You know, and I'm not a chemist, but I know enough to stay out of there. You know, it's terrible. And that was last year when it was 90 degrees. That's how the lake looks. A lot of algae, a lot of blooms. And here's what the lake front looks like. You You're gonna have to look close because I can't really zoom. But this is really why I came, because I'd love to see that park addressed. You know, we used to have a lot of people that come there. Now you get maybe 2 or 3. My family went there last year, and I was ashamed. I thought, what happened here? You know, it's been over a period of a short time, and it's all growed in. You got 30 feet of beach where you can go into the water. Not right.
President Frisbee, if I could.
Yes.
We normally don't ask questions, but because I lived on the lake for 10 years, I'm familiar with the Lake Association. And as president, I wanted to ask you are you assessing the property owners anymore to help with the weed control and getting that harvester that comes out and tries to clear the lake? Is that still being done?
We are doing the weed control. As a matter of fact, we just had an algae spray last Monday, and the lake already turned when it got up to 90 degrees. The algae was already coming to the top.
Yeah.
As far as the assessment, we on Sunset Lake pay more than any other lake around here as far as individual assessment to control this. And that's why I'm here for help. We're paying $400 a year. That's quite high. But our situation is different because we only have 45 to 50 homeowners. You know, so all I'm asking is I'm not asking for a huge amount. Help with some spray just for the algae blooms so that lake looks good. You know, I don't want that algae on top floating around looking like a scum, basically. I mean, that's what people call it, scum set. And I think that's embarrassing. Me as living on the lake, what about my property value? You know, you can go into all sorts of areas here that I don't know where to stop. I can go on and on and on.
Oh, well, it's probably a good time to stop. We all live it here. We all see it daily. We all have our own concerns. We've had other discussions with other residents. So you certainly have brought it to our attention. We appreciate that.
And that was my objective here, you know, and I don't want to take up any more time. I'll take those pictures. I'd like the manager to see him. You know, he is a big part of saying yes or no, you know? So, but I'm really the spray and the beachfront.
Right, thank you.
You know, because you look at the webpage that you have, and it was a selective picture. They show you the sand, but they don't show you the waterfront. You know, and I'm going, look at this, it's a selective.
Absolutely.
You need to see the truth.
We-
All right, thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
thank you,
Thank
Derek.
you so much.
Thank you, Dan. You want to take time to look at some of this quick? Oh, okay, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
Thanks.
I can
Thank
drop the, if you want to leave those with me, I'll
Yeah.
get them dropped off. Thanks.
All right, so we have a general consent agenda in front of us, consisting of the minutes of our regular council meeting, June 19, 2023. Warrant reports in a total of $97,348.75. We have our 22-23 fourth quarter amendments and event request. There was no correspondence tonight. I did have a question about the minutes. So on council action item 10B, Mr. Wagner made a motion, and I didn't keep my who seconded it, but you have them listed as both Mr. Wagner, trustee Wagner making a motion and second. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you, sir.
So who did second it?
We know you're good, Ron, but
So we have our consent agenda in front of us. What,
Move as amended.
Support.
motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by trustee Wagner. You do a roll call, please, Christian?
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Holmes,
yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Reister,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes, thank you all. So we have some council action items in front of us tonight. Jim, did you want to start with 10B and drop A down to F? Is that what the thought was?
Yes, because it's just incorporated in approval of, if someone has a question about Angels, be happy to answer it. But if the budget does get approved, that's incorporated within that.
All right, so we have a agenda item, an action item in front of us tonight for a periodic personnel evaluation, and it's been requested that we go into a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.267 and 15.268.
President Frisbee, I move that we go into a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.267 and 15.268.
Trustee Reister, support.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Reister. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, roll call. Yes, roll call, please, Christian.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
trustee Holmes,
Yes.
trustee Reister,
Yes.
trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Fields, President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Move into closed session. Yes. Need a motion to go back into regular session.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Wagner. All those in favor say aye. Roll call. Roll call, please, Christian.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Thank you so much. Jim, thank you for your time. So the HR team and we all just reviewed Jim Mallory's performance over the last year, and the HR team established a format that's been different than in years past, but we established four tiers where you don't meet expectations and you need a personal improvement plan, or you meet expectations with some oversight and guidance. The fourth was you meet all expectations, and fourth, was you exceed all expectations. And the resounding result is, Mr. Mallory, you exceed all our expectations from from a municipal village manager and how you run the day-to-day business and the planning and the budgeting, but the things that you have come up with outside and beyond, a typical scope for a village manager is just the successes are numerous, right? It's just, I'll run through a couple of them that you've been actively in charge of and brought to the table and brought to this village. In '22, the infrastructure $11 million project that included the complete downtown streetscapes, whereas others have done a similar thing and not taken that extra step to do the downtown. Oswalt Park, the MEDC grant money, and the lead fundraiser, it's just been tremendous. Financed the DPW building with cash, financed a new village hall with cash. So that just takes a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, a lot of diligence to see the future, to start this journey 7 years ago, to put us in a position to succeed. It's just been, it hasn't gone unnoticed. So our appreciation is amazing, and so you exceeded our expectations. I don't think you could have got a better review from this committee in front of you. So Berg Days, we all talked about doing one event was a success, but you want to do 9 events, and it's just the progressive thinking that you have for this village is shows, and we're all very proud of that. Thank you very much. And we have, as an HR committee, some recommendations for Mr. Mallory's salary. If I could ask Ryan to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, the HR committee wants to put forth a recommendation for the village manager annual salary to be $110,000.
With the
And
deferred
that was, yes,
compensation
with
package.
the deferred compensation for 15,000 paid at 2 years and 15,000 paid at the end of the 3rd year.
Do we have a motion for that? That's the HR committee's recommendations, and that was a motion. Do we have a second?
Support.
We have a motion and support, motion by Trustee Wagner and support by Trustee Reister. Any further discussion or comments by this council? With that, we have a motion and a second in front of us. Would you do a roll call, please, Christian?
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. I'd like to just deviate real quick a minute. You have that? Jim, what do you think? Little token of appreciation. Microphone. this screenshot done and put into something you can put on the wall. Remember the rest of this evening? Thank you very much. We're so proud of the accomplishments that you've done for this community. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. You know, you look, what's outside of your purview is you got an award grant of $3.7 million from, you know, the Economic Development Group for our expansion of our infrastructure project. $1.2 million grant from the county ARPA for the lead line replacements. $350,000 for the ARPA funding for improvements to housing based on your poverty level. So that goes outside of our normal responsibilities, and that just says a lot to your character. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a wild card. I just ad-libbed. So thank you all. So that moves us on to a public hearing. We need to open a public hearing to receive public comments. Entertain a motion to go into an open public hearing.
Trustee Wagner, I move that we open public hearing for 2023 to 2024 fiscal year budget.
Trustee Reister, support.
Trustee Wagner, motion, support by Trustee Reister. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, roll call.
Roll call, please. Christian?
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Give me one more year. I might have figured this out. Anything with money, roll call. All right. So we have a public hearing open. Anyone like to comment on our proposed 23-24 full year budget?
Unless staff's going to correct me, I'm unaware of any public comments that were received. We received no comments via writing or request to view the fiscal budget as well. The council should be aware also that the public notice by state legislative is 6 days, and I think we put it in 15 days or more before to give plenty of time.
Thank you, Jim. We need to,
Move to close public hearing.
Trustee Wagner, I support.
motion made by President Pro Tem Keller, support by Trustee Wagner. We'll do a roll call, please. Christian?
Trustee Fields,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yeah.
President Frisbee.
Yes, so we enter into our regular session. And this takes us to. Yep. What the hell did I just do with it? Yeah, so we move into council action items. Jim, we've got down to consider the adoption of the village 2023-2024 full year budget and Angel Crossing 2023-2024 full year budget. The staff is recommending a motion to support approval of proposed 2022-2023 full year budget resolution 06262023-2. Would this council like to proceed?
I'd like to, if I can, have some comments on the proposed budget. I will, it's 113 pages long, so the file's too big. We have, remind the council, we delved into the details of this as we presented the non-enterprise funds over the past 3 months. I think best is to have a short trip down the past 2 fiscal years. Village of Vicksburg ended the 2021-22 fiscal year by completing 3 substantial CIP projects, $12 million infrastructure project, $275,000 makeover of Oswald Park, and the construction of a 6,000 square foot pole barn building for DPW. The implementation of the 2022-2023 fiscal year budget's foundation was to keep the positive momentum of the village of progressing forward. A substantial investment was made in our Parks and Recreation Department with the improvements to the Boardwalk of Sunset Park, observation deck at Clark Park, the initial Movies in the Park program for families to enjoy, as well as the new disc golf baskets installed at our recreational park. The Village of Vicksburg continued to focus on positively impacting the economic opportunities for our businesses in our core downtown, and we all should be proud of the number of small family-owned businesses that have made Vicksburg their business home, highlighted by the addition of Mackenzie's Bakery and their regional reach of customers. As a government entity, in the past 15 months, we've received notice of over $4.8 million in grant funding. Under the policies of this Vicksburg Village Council, we have continued our journey to become a model municipality of our size. Fiscal responsibility with a foundation of public transparency, providing wow service at every opportunity we can to our residents and visitors, and attracting future residents and visitors, along with businesses, to our village with a culture of positivity focused on a village where neighbors become friends. The construction of our new municipal building, financed with cash, has commenced, and we look forward to its completion by spring of 2024. As we prepared the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget, we have utilized each of the formal governmental plans: the Master Plan, Downtown Development Authority Plan, and Parks and Recreation. Multiple virtual meetings with organized neighborhoods and businesses, as well as individual contacts with members of the Village Council, Planning Commission, DDA, Parks and Rec, and staff members. This year, we also used information contained in the Vicksburg Village Council's strategic plan that was created with formal planning sessions that you as a village council embarked on long Saturday afternoons that were facilitated by the Upjohn Institute. President Frisbee and village trustees, I'm proud to formally present the 23-24 fiscal year budget to yourself, the village council, and the citizens of Vicksburg. The village of Vicksburg operates on a set of financial controls that are established by state law. The Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, PA2 of 1968, and detailed in our own village ordinance. All local governments are required to prepare and administer an annual balanced budget. How well the village has performed in administering the budget is then reviewed at the end of the fiscal year by an independent auditor. The village has a track record of excellence in budgeting and financial management since 2016. Vicksburg has repeatedly received from outside independent auditors for our fiscal responsibility the past 6 years. Like any good business, we like to develop a detailed plan in order to maintain a fiscally sound and stable village. We continue to have the philosophy to not incur any general fund tax debt and to pay for capital items with cash via a sound financial savings plan. The village budget has two main components: general fund and non-general fund. In order to fully understand how the village finances its projects and programs, it's important to know the difference. General fund, taxpayer dollars are deposited into the general fund along with state shared revenue from sales and use taxes, franchise fees, business license fees, interest income, and miscellaneous revenues, and beginning cash balances. This portion of the budget is comprised largely of discretionary funds, since the village council and village manager can allocate the funds to program and services in any area. In other words, there are few restrictions on how these resources may be allocated. General fund dollars are used to support such village services as police, fire, parks and rec, as well as planning, community development, and administrative support services. All other funds, often referred to as dedicated funds, the non-discretionary funds include enterprise funds such as wastewater and water, Angels Crossing Golf Course, grants and donations, contract revenues, and other revenues specifically dedicated for a particular purpose. Other specifically dedicated revenues would be major and local road money, which we've presented in front of this council with Act 51 terminology. Downtown Development Authority and brownfield development. The revenue received in these departments are restricted to only be used for purposes outlined in the state of Michigan statutes for each. In accordance with the village charter and ordinances, the village manager shall prepare and submit to the council prior to July 1st of each calendar year a recommended budget, including the following information: detailed estimates with supporting explanations of all proposed expenditures for each department, office, agency, or subunit of the village, showing the expenditures for corresponding items for the last preceding fiscal year in full and for the current fiscal year, which tonight is June 26, 2023, and estimated expenditures of the balance of the current fiscal year, which were presented in the fourth quarter amendments approved in the non-agenda items. Similar sources for the last preceding fiscal year in full and the current fiscal year. And the next step in the budget process is to place the recommended budget on file for public review and set the date for the required public hearing. That was completed and done tonight. Council may then choose to adopt the budget at the same meeting following the public hearing. In accordance with the village charter, the budget must be approved by the village council no later than the last day in June. We've presented a budget, and I can enter into the resolution or read the resolution, which has not that many whereases, but it is a resolution for the 23-24 Village of Vicksburg operating budget. Whereas the Village Council has received requests for funding the necessary projects and programs for the village for 2023-2024, and whereas it is determined the following activity level budget action plan for the 23-24 years should be adopted, and whereas the Village of Vicksburg tax levy for the 2023-2024 to support the operating budget includes a property tax rate that will be reduced to 15.0322 mils. And whereas the SAW grant has been completed with an extensive evaluation of the Village of Vicksburg's infrastructure system, and as a result, the 2023-2024 consumption rates will have a slight increase based on the recommendation of our financial team. The slight increase is needed to ensure that there is enough revenue to cover anticipated maintenance and upgrades to an aging system that dates back to the 1940s. And whereas the state of Michigan has enacted legislation requiring municipalities to upgrade any lead water service lines. The village estimates that there are 475 to 500 locations that will be required to be updated over the next 18 years. The state mandates that at minimum 5% of the water lines should be replaced per year for the next 18 years. And whereas the cost of treatment of wastewater has increased over 20% in 2023, and whereas the average homeowner, the slight increase in basin consumption rate will keep the Village of Vicksburg in the medium range for utility rates for similar sized municipalities. And whereas this will continue to ensure the Village of Vicksburg will be able to provide adequate capacity and infrastructure to our residents, businesses, and visitors in future years. We've provided a list of the rates in front of the council, two more whereases. Whereas the 2023-2024 activity level budget will continue a conservative fiscal approach that utilizes previously assigned and committed dollars for CIP investments. The 2023-2024 activity level budget will be reviewed and updated at public village council meetings every 3 months, beginning in October 2023. And whereas the 2023-2024 activity level budget supports the Village of Vicksburg's master plan, parks and recreation plan, downtown development plan, current village council presidents and trustees, subunits of government, and citizens' input via 3 public virtual meetings that many citizens participated in. And now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Vicksburg that the attached activity level budget by department be adopted for 2023-2024, which then lists out each independent fund with the corresponding amount. And upon approval of the resolution, the clerk will certify it and have it posted on the public website. And it is staff's recommendation the anticipated revenues far exceed the anticipated expenditures as we move forward, and would recommend the adoption of the proposed budget. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, the staff has a request in front of us, so I'd entertain a motion.
Trustee Wagner, I move that we accept the proposed budget as submit.
Trustee Reister, support.
Now we have some discussion. Any questions or comments? This is the time to do it.
Jim, I'd like to say thank you for the extensive work on another not only balanced budget, but coming in with expenses far under revenues, which only continues to serve that driving force you've mentioned of fiscal responsibility for the village. And I very much appreciate the action or the activity level summary. I think that it's much easier for the common citizen to look at and reference when we've got questions and things like that, to very plainly show that we're being responsible with those funds and that it's being allocated correctly. So I thank you for that.
I will highlight the anticipated revenues of all funds are $10,481,500, with the expenditures estimated at $8,473,430, with a balance in the year of all funds just over $2 million under.
Yes, sir, please do.
Jim, I'd like to echo Trustee Wagner's comments. Both Ryan and I are on the Finance Committee, and one of the things that I've always felt comfortable with is the way that the Finance Committee works with you, as we review the budget, and also in looking at how the budget has been unfolded to the council. Very transparent, rigorous discussion. And I think at the end of it, the one thing that I personally feel comfortable with is that I really appreciate the fact that you look at the money as your own. You take a personal interest in this, and this is personal to you. You're from here. And for that, I would say, to those that may ever be interested, there is really, I think, a really high value that this council places upon the way that you and staff really do approach the budget. And I think it's evident in the way it's laid out, as Trustee Wagner said. And I think even for some of us that, government is kind of new to us, you make it very easy to understand. So thank you very much to you, Michelle, and the staff. Thanks.
Thank you.
I will ditto those compliments, because I know that the detail you dive into, and both of you, Michelle and Jim, the hours that are spent putting this together. And as you say, doing it every quarter, any amendments you need to do, that's a good time to do it. So hopefully that makes the year end easier. But yeah, you do a wonderful job and put this information together where it's very comprehensive and straightforward, so thank you for that. Thank you both. Any other comments, questions? So we have a motion by trustee Wagner, support by trustee Reister. We'll do a roll call, please, Kristen?
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Holmes,
Yes.
trustee Fields, trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Thank you. We have a budget. Amen. I kind of entered superseded because I didn't see the G back here, but would you want to continue with the resolution for delinquencies, G, and then do the MBA afterwards? You want me to do the MBA now? Your call.
Doesn't matter.
We'll do the G now. I didn't see it on the back page when I took it.
All right. We'll do letter G. So every June, we bring before you a staff request for the approval of the resolution. And this year, Resolution 0623-2023-1 is a resolution directing delinquencies due the Village of Vicksburg from various property owners to be placed on the 2023 property tax roll pursuant to the Village of Vicksburg ordinances. And just like Jim, I'll be happy to read a lot of whereases. Whereas a number of property owners have not responded to requests for payment of delinquencies due to the Village of Vicksburg. And whereas a portion of these debts are from vacated properties now owned by a lending institution, foreclosed properties awaiting sheriff sale, and must be noticed. And whereas the ordinances of the Village of Vicksburg permit unpaid debts owed the Village of Vicksburg to be placed on property tax bills after proper notification to the property owner. And whereas each property owner will be mailed a letter requesting payment and notifying them of this action if amounts are not received in full by June 29th, 2023. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Vicksburg that the following properties have special assessments placed on the 2023 property tax bills for debts owed the village not otherwise paid by June 29th, 2023 per mail notification. Then you will have you'll see a listing of the property identification numbers and the amount due to the tax roll, that is the delinquent UB amount. And staff is recommending that you certify the foregoing as true and complete copy of resolution adopted by the Village Council of the Village of Vicksburg at a regular meeting held on June 26th, 2023 by a roll call vote. And I'm available for questions.
I move that we adopt the resolution as submitted.
Trustee Wagner, I support.
Any questions, any further discussion, please?
I do. Michelle, just if you can, how does this compare with last year's? I'm just curious.
This year is $11,022.75. 2022 was $8,355.76. 2021 was $10,427.77. 2020 was $11,339.34. So right in that same area. It's consistent.
It's consistent.
So I'd like to applaud you, Michelle, for having that information so readily available.
You're welcome.
Very prepared.
Michelle, how many of these are commercial properties? How many homes, rentals?
We don't separate them
You don't-
out when
we
we
don't
list it.
separate.
I can look that up for you.
I
Get
was
back to
just
you on that.
curious. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Michelle? So we have a motion by trustee Keller, President Pro Tem Keller, and support by trustee Wagner. We'll do a roll call, please, Christian?
Trustee Fields, trustee Olson,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
trustee Holmes,
Yes.
trustee Reister, President Frisbee.
Yes. So we'll move to 10H. Well, I tried to hijack G, but 10H is I told you all last meeting, we have some openings. We're getting the gang all back together in the Municipal Building Authority. So I would like to recommend for your approval, Paula Hostetler, owner of Apple Knockers, Mike Wonderland, owner of the Health Food Center in Kalamazoo and long time resident, and Mr. Bill Adams, our prior council president. So I'd like to place those on the Municipal Building Authority Committee, and I just ask for your vote of support.
Move to approve.
Support.
Motion by Keller, support by Fields. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I'll let them know. Yes, indeed. I'll tell them tomorrow. And this brings us to Mr. Manager, Mr. Mallory's report.
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for this. Again, I'll thank each of you individually after the meeting. That was very, very nice. Berg Days, the summer update this Wednesday will be our third event. We have seen growth in the first two. Estimate about 1,800 people were for the first Wednesday and about 2,400 for the second. On some local, as an example as well, revenue in the retail establishments that I inquired, which were about all of them, was up was very good in week one. They saw an increase. One of the stores on Prairie Street where all the kids' activities were was very well received in week one, but in that rearrangement that we're learning what's best in front of what retail, they saw a 36% increase in sales that day. So we're really looking to the third week with live music and 6 food trucks and kids' activities. And on a personal note, I guess in a professional capacity, I have really been pleased with the diversity and families that are attending the events. That was part of the effort put into the organization to make sure it wasn't a one-show type situation, that it really catered to families and will continue to do so. So that'll, our third one will come up here in 48 hours. We'll just be concluding it. So we'll see everyone in 45 hours. But we're not going to rest, because an interesting proposal or idea came up, and at the appropriate time, the citizen I'll certainly name who brought this forward, because it was a great idea. So we are in the initial planning to have on August 24th, 2023, which is a Thursday at noon, at the Historic Pavilion, incorporating the Historic Village, the first annual, potentially multiple times a year, Senior Berg Festival. So we've secured sponsorship. We have a commitment from the South County Community Services to partner up with us and to have appropriate representation for the wealth of experience that will be present with us that day between noon and 3 o'clock in the afternoon under the shade of the pavilion. But food will be provided and more details to come. So we're about 80% of the details, but there's going to be some event appropriate music, food, and a good time had by all people eligible for the Senior Berg event.
Who's going to be eligible?
That will come in a future update.
Be careful, yeah.
Right.
Oh, man.
Certainly
I'm there too.
people of experience and tenure.
Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to it. A couple always positive messages to pass along. Received at just prior to 4 o'clock this afternoon, as the council is aware, submitted a grant to the MML Bridge Builders opportunity. We put together a program we titled Arts in the Burg, submitted that grant in conjunction with the Vicksburg Cultural Arts Board, and worked a little bit behind the scenes with the MML, and then had an online component, participation of citizens and like. So at a little before 4 o'clock this afternoon, I was informed that, in fact, dear Jim, I'm so pleased to inform you that your project, Arts in the Burg, was selected by the statewide jury for funding. Congratulations. So we have secured that additional $5,000 that we will be administrating on behalf of the Vicksburg Cultural Arts. It's going to be everyone here knows I'm probably, my background's not arts, but it's going to be, in my vernacular, a really cool cart that we can have, like kids make postcards up, and you might see those postcards in the future to sell, but it's an arts cart for Arts in the Burg. But we were successful in obtaining that grant award. We were notified today. I would like to conclude, I've had multiple contacts reference the focus on the Berg Days events, but I received an email at around 6 o'clock tonight that sums up a lot, overwhelming majority of contact I have with citizens, whether it be direct messages, calls, texts, or just passing by. Jim, I'd like to tell you about my Friday evening. My neighbor and I recently began doing a night out every 2 to 3 weeks, and last Friday we checked out an establishment in another municipality, and then went to the Distant Whistle downtown Vicksburg. While sitting outside, was a very enjoyable couple hours, during which I observed the success of the social district on Main Street at Jasper's, and of course Distant Whistle. It's a very cool and relaxing thing we now have in the Berg, and I commend you for your part, as well as the council, in making this happen. Again, it's being noticed, and people are enjoying our downtown, and that's really, in my professional world, is the contacts that are taking notice now. Just the positive vibe. We highlighted our social media impact from week 1 to week 2. We'll give a detailed report at no later than the September council meeting on the impact of downtown and how many people with this program interacted, and look towards the future. So that is my report tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim.
I will add, and I know I updated, I think it was Trustee Reister and maybe Trustee Holmes who inquired about the trees. That notification was made. There's a tree in front of the Distant Whistle and a tree, I think, in front of Main Street that will be addressed. The tree in front of Fellposh, it's the second tree. We're worried about the potential for growth, so that with that tree might be planted outside of the district, and instead of just planting trees that we know aren't going to make it, we look at a large flower pot there instead. So, but the one in front on Main Street and the one down by Main Street Pub have been addressed with the company, and we should see those replaced.
Thank you for taking that action, Jim. Any other questions, comments? So it'll take us to trustees' time. I'll start down.
No, how about committee reports?
Man, I so want to get out of here.
We're gonna be fast.
But there is no tree report, correct?
The only thing I have to say is that our next meeting is July 10th.
July 10th, next meeting. Parks and Rec? No, we already got reports on that. Cats was canceled. Planning Commission,
2 weeks ago, so
right?
another
We
update.
talked about that. And Oh, yes, of course. The sewer is tomorrow. We'll get updated on that. We'll take our resolution about associate membership with us. And that takes us to fire.
Okay, we've had a busy, less than a week with the South County Fire Authority. We did meet last Wednesday night, and the only real item on the agenda was, other than the draft, which was approved, by the way, to change the bylaws. So we will have an alternate. So we'll be looking probably at the July meeting to suggest an alternate in, if I can't make it, and then that person has to be sworn in by the clerk so that we can then, I can report that back to the board who that's going to be. The other item was the new, what everybody there calls the apparatus or fire truck. We were informed by Mike Tomlinson, who is the supervisor of Prairie Round. He is in the know regarding diesel engines. Due to new EPA restrictions that go into effect July 1st, there is a new engine that's going to be required. So the engine that was in the truck that we were looking at would not be available after July 1st. We were informed that the price of that engine would raise the truck price between $50,000 and $100,000. It also is a case that, because it's a new generation type of engine, like when DEF came out, that they weren't sure what the reliability of that engine was going to be. So discussion started very quickly amongst the board members on just moving forward with the truck. There was a motion and a second, a vote was taken. The vote was 4-2. I voted no, and so did Schoolcraft Village, mainly because, as I had stated to them prior, that until we got a pro forma from the fire authority on how this truck was going to be financed or paid for, that the village couldn't fully support it until we had that. They understood it. The motion was based on that they were going to enter into a no money down contract with Pierce, who was the manufacturer of the truck, with an opt-out by August 31st. If by that time the finance committee would have our numbers together that we could report to our entities and then get a go or no go. So we broke that meeting and immediately had an apparatus meeting after that, which is why I wasn't downtown last Wednesday night, because I was here till after 9 o'clock. We met with the representative from Pierce, and the first thing that was asked was, no, we can have an opt-out, right? And he said, absolutely not. Once you place an order, you're in. So that made the vote that we took last week null and void, because it did not meet the parameters of what the motion was. So then it became a scramble for the authority to get a meeting together, because the chairperson was going to be out of the country starting this afternoon and was going to be past the July 1st deadline. So we ended up having a meeting this morning at 7 a.m. There were two proposals. One was for a 15-year lease agreement with X amount of dollars down, and then the monthly payment would be X amount per year, with the payment due at signing. And then the other one was no money down with a 15-year lease, and the first payment would be due next year, next calendar year, when the agreement goes in. A vote was taken. It was 4-1. I voted no, again, because, as I had stated to them, we did not have a pro forma, and that the village could not fully support until we knew how that was going to be handled. Schoolcraft Village did not show up for the meeting, so they didn't even vote. So we are purchasing a truck. So that's, and I got a little bit of heat from some of the members on the board, but I explained to them this was democracy, and I was representing the village, and I knew that this was what the council, what we had decided that we wanted to see, and so that's the reason for my vote. I did support a motion for the chair to enter into the agreement with Pierce. We are meeting, the finance committee is meeting on July 6th, and we are going to get the numbers broken down as to what we can come up with a down payment, as far as the chunk of money. and then have it figured out from there how that's gonna be handled. So they're not intending for this to be a 15-year lease. They're intending to this to be a no more than 4-year lease. There is no penalty for early payoff. So, but that is where we're at. So it's been very busy the last week, so.
Is there plans of theirs still to give us a pro forma?
Yes, they are still gonna do that. That's not gone away, because, the one thing they realize is because the entities are involved, that the entities wanna make sure that they're not gonna come back to the entities asking for more money. Because as it was mentioned earlier, Schoolcraft in the Village of Vicksburg, we do not set aside, a special millage or anything for fire. It's just kind of included in our annual budget of what we contribute to the fire authority, so.
President Frisbee, one question if I could, either for the village manager or for trustee Keller. In looking at how much money we set aside every year and trying to project what our cost is gonna be here, do we believe we're gonna be able to meet the expectation, or are we still like we have no idea right now?
I think that's what, when the council voted or supported the recommendation, was to get that financial plan from South County Fire. Then we would take that plan and be able to apply it to our own CIP to evaluate, okay, where are we, will our general fund growth, because it is all general fund money, be able to support that. I know that layered amongst that, I'm hoping that South County Fire, and it might not be eligible apparatus-wise, but could help out their budget with how much money the state has, that I know I forwarded to the fire chief, state grant money that's out there for specifically volunteer departments that South County is a perfect model for, so hopefully that's taken place.
I will mention, by the way, that the delivery on this truck currently stands at between 27 and 30 months. So, that's current lead time. There is a possibility it may come in before that, but he said right now it's likely gonna be, 27 to 30 months.
Any other questions of Mr. Keller?
President Frisbee, more of a comment, I guess. I got chewed out a couple of times for speaking out about this, and I remember standing up 5-6 years ago and saying we need to start setting money aside, not just Vicksburg, but the entire fire authority. At some point, we gotta replace the station. At some point, we gotta replace this equipment, and we're not saving the money. And everybody kind of blew me off, and a few people chewed my backside for speaking out about, oh, they're gonna raise taxes and this and that. Well, you know something? I looked at our budget for South County Fire Authority. I gotta tell you something, we got the cheapest system out there. If Vicksburg had to pay for this, we'd be paying for full-time firefighters. At one time, there were 40 members from Vicksburg on our fire department. You know how many there is today from Vicksburg? None. Everybody who works for South County Fire Authority is outside the village of Vicksburg. And I can't remember, I think Schoolcraft's got like 6. But there's one of the townships every year gripes about how much they have to pay. I'm sorry. You can't run a fire department that cheap. You cannot run a police department that cheap. And I'm sorry they feel the way they do, but I remember when Waukesha was talking about walking away and they were going to go to Climax because they didn't like the way that it was being run. Well, I'm sorry. This is the best system out there. And I can tell you too is that Barodas has been looking at us. Barodas is looking at forming their own fire authority. And I've spoken with the gentleman from Barodas twice. And I should, because guess what? My brother-in-law lives over there. He's concerned too. So I think we have to count our blessings in a lot of ways. And yes, this piece of equipment, 2-3 years ago was $650,000. If we hadn't made the move now, we'd be looking at $1 million. So, this is what COVID and the economy and everything has done. It's done nothing but drive up the prices. So, I think we need to count our blessings, and if we need to do it, we bite the bullet and we do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Denny. And yes, our village is not walking away from the South County and appreciate everything they do. So, you know, I look at it from, we're not trying to do anything different other than make them better, make them serve the community better. And so where would we be right now had they bought the property to build the new station, you know? So that's what we ask is a plan. Put together a long-range plan like we're doing here, you know, what are you gonna set aside this year for what, X, you know, plan out. So I think we're slowly but surely moving in that direction. But I will just continue on that with your time, Denny, if you, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, in some ways, it's been a long meeting tonight, but in a lot of ways, I think it was a good meeting too. We got a lot of things aired that needed to be aired, and that, only other thing I have to say is I want to say happy birthday to my son James. He turned 34 yesterday. And that young man has grown up to be the man I always wished he would be. So, thank you.
Trustee Wagner,
I'm all set this evening. Thank you, President Frisbee.
Trustee Reister.
Well, I would just like to talk for a second about the Berg Days. I went to a party in Three Rivers, or no, Schoolcraft, I'm sorry, Schoolcraft, my granddaughter, and there was a gal that was there that is not from around there, and she said, I just heard about Berg Days from a friend of mine, and I am coming next week. So it's starting to spread, and I think you're right. I was at both of them so far, and the second one, definitely, we had more people. And everybody is having a wonderful time. It's just, it is a family event, a family affair, and that is so great.
Trustee Fields.
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Holmes.
A couple quick comments. First, I'm looking forward to getting my invitation to the senior event, so thank you. I also would like, lastly, I'd like to welcome Paula, Mike, and Bill. We got you back. We knew we'd eventually get you involved to the Municipal Building Authority. 3 really great people, and I'm hoping that they continue to work and develop with the community. They all 3, you know, very special people.
President Pro Tem Keller.
Well, it seems that it's my second meeting in this building in less than 12 hours. I guess I'll make it really short. Tomorrow night or Wednesday at the Berg Days, they're going to be featuring the Vicksburg Lions Club is going to be the nonprofit. So I will be there representing the Lions Club. So I would appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thanks, and I myself will just be pretty brief. And the Berg Days have been awesome, and to see these young families and these young kids, you know, I had one parent tell me what is beautiful about it is they can let their kids run around and have fun and not be scared that a car is going to run them over or something. So the really interesting part was that since I was on duty, I was a hawk. I was chasing people down, introducing myself, trying to find out where they were from. So 7 people. One was Marcellus, Mendon, Three Rivers, Schoolcraft, and Portage. I have one couple from Vicksburg that I didn't know. And so it's, the word's out there, and we're going to see a lot more people. And I thank you for all those that keep it controlled. Knock on wood, no incidents, no fighting, no negative press. So I'm tickled to death, and this has been a great addition to our village. So Jim and your staff, thank you for that. So with that, and being no further discussions, we'll call this meeting
Move to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.